Stop trying to find gaps in a market that you've got no experience in. You have to understand a lot of these successful business people made their money through picking markets that they have experience in. They have a wealth of experience around them. They've been in this environment for many, many years, and this is their domain. That is how they form the basis of their products. In this week's video, I'm going to explain to you exactly how I came up with what my product was and how I used my expertise and my knowledge to form that product. Mindset. It's a very, very complex thing. But the way I like to describe it is not as, you think this all the time. This is just the way you think. You have to have an underlying personality. It's an archetype. And the particular archetype who goes on to build and solve for problems is someone who constantly looks for problems, someone who constantly looks for something to fix. They get enjoyment out of fixing things and building solutions. For instance, when I'm at work and I'm doing my job, I'm constantly looking for better ways of doing things. How do I streamline the process? How do I make things faster? How do I make things more automated? How do I improve my productivity? How can I change the way that I am as an individual, the way that I work constantly? This sort of archetype is just, it's a constant desire to improve processes. Now, take a niche, let's say Windows. You're in the window industry and, you've got double glazed windows, you've got triple glazed windows. I don't know what goes after that. How can you make Windows better? Well, I think with my current Windows, I'm just going to take my Windows as an example. I'd probably get rid of the actual ventilation strip that they've got. I'll probably just make a latch. It just makes it more simple. I'd probably add in another layer of double glazing because there gets some noise in that. I'd probably actually completely change the plastic panels and put in some insulating material so it keeps more heat in, because I know that these windows let in a lot of heat. So I'm probably not very good at Windows, right? Because I'm not an expert. But my point is, if you are a problem solver, or you look for problems, or you realize problems, that's one thing. But you need to take it a step further. You need to be able to look at that problem and then say, how do I actually fix or solve for that problem? What steps do I need to take? What's the roadmap? What's the project? What does it look like? If you think the problem is great enough for a reward, if you think that risk to reward ratio is there, that could be a potential business. And I think, you have to validate that risk and reward through testing with markets, testing with the consumers, people who you think would buy the product. But I think the most important thing is you've got to identify problems. You've got to be good at looking for problems and then actually understanding what the implementation is in order to fix and solve the problem. So how did I decide on the problem statement for my business? Well, the answer to that is I'm quite a selfish person. I absolutely hate with a passion when you spend 2 hours teaching, and you've gone over the same things as you did last week because the person hasn't been able to fully grasp what you've taught in the prior lesson. You've written out all of these detailed notes in a notebook, you've handwritten it, you've done beautiful handwriting, you've drawn all of these diagrams and images, and the hope is that the student will consume all of this information, master it for next week, and then you can progress and make improvements and actually generate results. Now, as a music teacher, that is just not how things go. What usually happens is you write the notes, you draw the diagrams, and you go to it next week, and it's like going from ground zero. Then it takes about 3 or 4 weeks until they realize that, I'm not going to progress if I don't learn this. And then they'll start to take a look at it, and then it will slowly progress. A month after month, they'll make slow improvements. Now, that not only wastes people's money, because if you're a parent paying for music lessons, you're going to have extremely slow progress. By the time they're 14 to 15 and going through their teen years, they might want to give up because they've not made enough progress and they're not a child prodigy. The parents might want to learn music themselves, but they find it difficult to practice during the week. They don't have enough motivation. The actual notes might not be good enough. So the students might read through them and not understand them. They understood them in the lesson because they had the context and the short-term memory, but when they read through it on Wednesday night, they don't understand a single word on the page. So for me, that was the real pain point. How do I reduce the friction for the learning process for a musical instrument? I talked about problems and then I talked about solving them. So for me, naturally, I took the problem and I did a simple brain chart, right? And my brain charts are at the center, you put the problem, and then you just draw loads and loads and loads of spider webs, around. And then you just write, I could do this, I could do this, I could fix this, I could have this feature which does this. So you start brainstorming, you start expanding this spider's web. You eventually then get into the detailed stuff. So it's this particular feature. How would I go about building that? What's involved? Do I need to code? Do I need to get someone to make me a poster? Do I need someone to build me a physical product? Do I need to spend 8 or 20 hours on this particular task? So having the problems are brilliant, and it shows that you have the capacity and potential for coming up with good ideas. However, actually starting to write down the solution and beginning to expand the real implementation work, that's where you can start working towards a goal. When it came to my problem, I did the brainstorming, I did the discussions with the parents, which is the next part of the video. But I did all of these things in order to build out a solution to a problem. You know, that brainstorming process, that genuine writing down of this is how I'm going to fix a problem. That's how you start to build businesses. It's how it starts. You can't have an idea and have no implementation. The most important thing with business is action. You need to take action. And if you don't take action steps, then you're going to make zero progress. So my point is, an idea is just an idea. Everyone's got ideas. You need to understand how to implement those ideas. So how did I test and validate my product? Well, the actual methodology I used was very, very simple. I simply took my problem and immediately spoke to every single person that I was in contact with in my demographic. I took the problem statement of, do you feel like your child made enough progress? Do you think that they're understanding the content throughout the week? Do you think that, you know, if there was something there in place to actually bridge that gap, would you invest in it? Would you take that on board? Would you purchase it? Would you be willing to test it and see the results for you and your child? I addressed the problem very directly. So I understood the problem, I wrote the problem down, I wrote the solution down. I then did some research on competitor analysis. I then went to see, is there anything already available in the market? Following this basic research and this basic action step, I got a very, very positive response from all of the people that I actually mentioned it to. And I think that's where you can quickly fail fast and you can quickly understand what your market is and what the people in your market want. You know, going and reaching out to people that you think would buy your idea, your brilliant solution that you've come up with, without even having a product, and saying, hey, what do you think of this idea? And they might turn around and say, oh, I don't think I'd use it. I think it's a bit silly. I already use this product. It does this. And then you start to get a picture and an understanding of what your current market's attitude is and who you're trying to sell to and essentially what they're after and what they think is missing. That's the most important part, expertise. Let's round up this whole video by tying it back to my first point, which was you have to be an expert in this space in order to come up with a business that's valuable. Now, I firmly believe that it's extremely beneficial to have a lot of knowledge in a specific subject. You know, when you did A-levels, what did you pick? Did you pick sciences? Did you pick politics? Did you pick geography? That's a good place to start. I think for me, music has been part of my life since I was 3 years old. So, naturally, 17 years of experience in the music industry is where I thought I could find the best solutions to the problems. Pairing that up with some new knowledge and some new area of expertise in technology and architecture, I've been able to pair those up and say, hey, I think I can build a good solution to this problem. Now, I don't think you can do the process quick enough if you aren't an expert, because you've got reading to do, you've got learning to do, you've got experiences to have. Try not to start fresh and just look for gaps in different markets that you're not inside of. If you do have something that you're good at, try and start with that and then do some further reading, bridge the gap between where you currently are and becoming an expert, and then, and only then, start coming up with these problems and then bridging it out into a full-scale solution. That's how you can add the most value to the world, and that's also how you can add the most value to your own projects and your own personal development. So that about wraps it up for today's video. As every YouTuber probably does, I was checking through the analytics and I realized that 80% of you are actually unsubscribed to the channel. Please do a guy a favor and drop me a subscribe button, turn the notifications on, maybe even reach out to me and give me an email, give me a message, leave something in the comments for me to reply to. Obviously it's a new channel, and by subscribing, you're essentially being part of my journey, growing this YouTube channel and growing multiple businesses.